Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Hadrian's Wall. This game is a flip and write sort of game. You're not rolling anything, but you're definitely writing and you're flipping some things over. But there's a lot of quote-unquote worker expenditure, so to speak, to put things down on your actual board. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Again, this is going to be from a solo-only perspective, and I'll give you kind of an overview of the way the game plays and then tell you what I think about it. All right, here we go.
All right, folks, and please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Okay, so here is like the main elements. You've got these two sheets here where you're going to be writing or crossing off little boxes. And this side is kind of like the whole wall setup and some of the town and buildings. And then this is kind of like your citizens track that has a whole bunch of other bonus buildings and things that you can do and employ. And then down here is kind of the points track where you're going to be keeping track of all the things that give you victory points throughout the game. Up top here, you've got this road. Okay, and on this road, you're going to have things that happen. You're going to, first of all, I'll show you what happens, but basically you're going to be putting cards under here that are going to help you score at the end of the game. You've got to be dealing with situations over here of invaders, which are called the Picts, I think. I forgot, I'm sorry. I hate it when I forget those things, but it's these cards here, okay? So everybody who knows what I'm talking about can say what it is. I think it's the Picts. Anyway, and then you have over here, the solo game, this little deck of like a person's cards that you flip over to give you some options, as if you had a player on your left and a player on your right, which you can interact with. And you have your own deck of cards here, which you're going to be using to basically choose. Every round you're going to draw two. You're going to choose one to put under the road for the scoring condition and use the other one to give you some additional income, offer up a pattern for your scouting, and offer up what good you could potentially acquire, so to speak, in the marketplace. Okay, so that is all the overviews of the components, and then you also have these different color workers. So you have the soldiers in black, the citizens in yellow, you've got laborers, so to speak. They call them servants, but really they're slaves, as they talk about in the rules, that are doing most of the work. And then you've got these other guys, which are builders or craftsmen of some sort. And that's what you have for components, okay? There's a lot of iconography, but it's actually really easy to understand. This game did not snow me. They give you this little thing on the back that tells you what they all mean, but it was really simple. And even though this rule book is quite long, it just is long because it's a lot to explain, but this is not a highly complex game. It is a game full of choices, delicious choices, but it's not high in the complexity. All right, so let me just show you just a little bit of what you do on your turn here. So on your turn, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to flip over one of these cards, and these cards tell you the stuff you're getting from an income standpoint. So in this case, you're going to get all these different workers right here. All right, so I take the 2 black and the 2 blue and the 3 purple and the 1 yellow. And unfortunately, I didn't get any stone second time in a row, which is kind of a rough job, but that's the way it goes. But I do get some stone for my production right here, so I'll get 2 stone. Then I flip over, again, these cards for the alternate player in case I want to use them for a scout or buy their goods. And if I do that, I basically have to draw more threat cards at the end of the round. And then I take a look at 2 cards here. And I look at them and I decide, do I want one of these particularly for their production and one of these particularly for the scoring opportunity. So in this case, I think I'm going to go with the Vanguard for my scoring one, because I end up, in my habit of habits, I guess, doing more wall sections more than anything else a lot of times. So I complete a couple of those each time. Gosh, that stupid glare. Sorry, folks. Okay, so I got that, and then that means that I'm going to get the income here of one of those and one of these. Now, there's no specific turns after this, okay? The rest of the game, whether you're playing solo or with other people, I guess, although I've never played with other people, is just a free-for-all while you're trading in things. And the basic deal is you're going to be spending
what it says in this spot here to fill in and get the rewards over here. Anytime you color over something, you get that. Each of these boxes are different. So, for instance, the big thematic part of this game is building this wall to keep these invaders out, right? So as you build the fort, you strengthen that. That allows you to build a wall that's linked in. It allows you to build some of these little sippies, which are like basically spiked sticks. You can put more guards on the wall, and then you can, of course, increase your production. So all these things, you're spending these workers or those items to do, okay? And as you do more of the forts, you then end up unlocking more abilities to build buildings. So for instance, if I want to build a small hotel, I've got to fill in this. Now, how do I do it? Well, it's pretty simple. I come over here and I toss in a blue or a black. Boom, toss in a blue. Then I fill it in. And now I have the ability to build the small hotel. How do I do that? Well, pretty simple. I come over here and I pay for it like this. Now, I fill this in, and each year, which is basically each turn when I start, I'm going to get one of these as income based on each of these that I filled in. Plus, I immediately get a yellow guy. Okay, what do I use the yellow guys for? Well, I'm going to spend them mostly for my citizenry track. So let's say I want to spend them here on the priest track. I go ahead and I toss in one of those. I fill in one of these. I get a purple. And then I get to be able to build level 1, which is the small temple. Okay, oops, well, I don't have any blue, so I'm going to have to figure out where to get blue. Well, I could start filling in these, for instance. So I could fill in that for a yellow and get a blue. And you can see how it goes, right? It goes pretty easily. So now if I want to build a temple, I take the blue and I take the yellow, spend those and the stone, and now I have a temple, okay? So I have completed this temple right here. I fill this in. This is worth 1 point at the end of the game because you get a point for each of these boxes you fill in over here. And then I have the ability now to spend any guy to take this action. Well, I got a lot of purples. Why don't I go ahead and spend a purple? And I'll fill in this box. And if I spend another purple, or I could spend anything, this white is just wild. Now I get a piety, and I get one of these, which will allow me to ignore an invasion card when the time comes. So I go ahead and I fill that in over here. And now I'm running a little low on workers and other things. Well, what would be nice is if I could find a way to get some kind of bump on the stone, because I could use some stone to build this up. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So instead, what I'm going to do to try to get some more defense here is I'm going to spend these 2 soldiers right now to boost this. So there's nothing for that one, but I do get a discipline, so that's a point. Now I need 1 more soldier to be able to get a cohort. And if I can get a cohort, I can defend against some of these invaders here coming up. And I got to defend against 2 cards. Now remember when I said if I wanted to take advantage of my opponent, I could use, I could give them something to take this action for a scout or this action for gathering a good. If I do that, I basically have to add to the number of cards I'm going to be taking. And this game has an easy, a medium, and a hard difficulty. And as you see, as you go year to year, they start to diverge and they get tougher and tougher. I particularly have found it enjoyable to play on the medium section. The easy section has almost very little tension because you usually have no issues blocking the invaders, but the medium ranks it up there a little bit. All right, so let's just continue on here. And the last thing I need to do is I need to get a soldier. So I don't see any good ways to get a soldier here at the moment without doing something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go to the forum and I'm going to spend 2 guys to get one of another one. But some of these things say I can only do this max 1 per year. And rats, this one says I can't do it for a soldier. So no, I'm not going to go to the forum to do that. What else could I do? Well, I think I'm going to just have to tough it out. I'm going to spend this purple over here for a know-nothing production action in the anticipation of getting over to this section, which I can't unlock until I get this medium granary. So I have to get that stuff. So I spent that purple. And then I'll go ahead and spend the yellow in just another place where I'm just going to kind of toss it away in one of these areas here. So I'm going to spend it in these performers actions because I want to do that later on. All right, so I'm out of resources. That basically means my turn is over.
Now I have to draw, in this case, 2 cards from the threat deck. And what I'm looking at is that upper portion right here. And I'm looking for these arrows. This means I have an attack on the left side and an attack on the right side. Well, lucky me, and this is just pure luck, I have 1 cohort on the left and 1 cohort on the right. So I defended it. So if I defend it, I get 2 valor points right there. Okay, and I can go ahead and color those in. And when I get that next one, that gives me a soldier for next time. If I had not defended it, then I would have to circle one of these spots right here, which is where I get some disdain. And for the certain amount of disdain you have at the end of the game, you lose points. Now, there are ways to cancel out disdain by basically bribing people at the bathhouse. And there's other ways I could have blocked it. Remember, I have this. I could have ignored one of those cards. There's all sorts of things that you can do in this game to mitigate the situations that you're dealing with. And I'll quickly give you an idea of what you're doing here. So you could be building different buildings over here, these precincts, to get bonuses, not bonuses, but to get points and more production in stone. You could build these markets and then start collecting these goods. And when you collect those goods, you start getting valor points, or not valor points, but city points over here for building different things. You could hire some gladiators and train them and then have them basically compete. And if you do that, then you look at this part of the card, pardon me, and see how many hits they take. And if they survive, you get some of these points down here. And if they die, you get faith points or piety points. You could build some more temples, and you saw me build temples earlier. You can also build gardens, which give you a variety of different things. All these symbols over here are basically your citizens over here, so that helps you fill the citizen track. You can build the bathhouses to bribe people. You can go ahead and build the courthouse to be able to recruit people. And this is where you basically would just get these workers. Or this one, you turn blues into 2 of the, I shouldn't say workers, they're, servants. And then you can even turn servants into builders. And then finally, the scouting action over here, you can basically make this pattern over here to cover up different things, get those bonuses, and then you get 1 valor point per completed row. And then there's other bonuses that come up with these cards. And at the end of the game, you will sum up all that stuff, plus all the things you've done here to get a final score. And that's about the size of it. So it is a very open, sandboxy type of game. Free play. The turn structure, like I showed you, is really loose. You're basically just taking, you're just going through actions without any real turns until you run out of actions you can take, and then you go to the next year after invasion. So that's about the size of it. Let me tell you what I think about it.
Okay, so what do I think of Hadrian's Wall? Well, first of all, there's a lot of positives in this game, and I'll tell you those positives first. It's very quick to set up. It takes literally 2 minutes to pull it out of the box, plop it down, and start playing. Secondly, the setup is not complex. You don't have to do a variety of different things. You can really, if this is a game where you're kind of exhausted and you don't want to spend a lot of time setting something up, but you just want to play it, this is a great game for that. Also, the game, while static, from the standpoint of the setup does not vary, there's a lot of different strategies you can try because you have all these different options in front of you. You can go heavy on the trade idea. You can do heavy on the priests. You can be heavy on the walls, etc. There's lots of different things you can try. And in my couple of games, I still feel like I've got a lot to explore. Also, the game being a solo game, there is no opponent, so to speak. It's just to beat your score. That may or may not be something you're looking for. In this game, I don't think it detracts from it because I wouldn't want to figure out what my opponent's doing. I don't mind the beat your own score, although I can see that people might get tired of it. However, the different difficulty levels are a very good thing for the game. On easy, I found the game way too loose and very easy to block against the actual the picks, and that was very simple then. And so I spent a lot of my time doing other things and scoring, decently well and not really worrying about it. And actually it kind of provided from a less exciting experience. I like that pressure of feeling I got to build this wall or something's going to happen. So I definitely recommend the medium after your first game. And I'm going to try the hard in a little while after I start to score relatively well with the medium. The interaction between other players in this game, in the solo versus other things, I mean, if you were playing multiplayer, I'm guessing, very similar. You're basically going to interact with people just by what the cards they have. There's not any direct or indirect conflict here. So it's very much a multiplayer solitaire game in a very pure form. The other thing about it is that it's a very easy game to play once you understand what you're doing. You kind of saw me rolling through that turn there, and I was going a little fast and wasn't really thinking about my choices. But if you had a good strategy of what you wanted to do, it really goes that fast. You could definitely play this game in a half hour, no problem, as a solo, and that would be good. And so all those things I think are pluses and provide for a fun experience. From a minus standpoint, I could say that, again, it's good you ratchet up the difficulty because otherwise there's not a lot of tension in this game. If anything, it feels a little bit too breezy sometimes, which is why I think it's important to keep that threat of invasion high. Otherwise, I found that my first game of it was it just felt a little shallow, okay? But besides that, I really enjoy it. I know that there's a lot of score sheets they give you if you want to see how thick these things are. I mean, that's a lot of score sheets. So it's going to be a long time. They are single-sided, but I'd probably play this game until I'm done playing it forever before I run out of these. So, when you're playing solo, it's one sheet per game. Obviously, you're playing with more players, then you're going to have, you're going to burn through these things a little quicker, and you could probably laminate them and be done with it if you wanted to keep going. But other than that, I think it's a very positive experience and a good one for my solo collection. So if that sounds attractive to you, then hopefully this is a game you can get your hands on. If you like more of an autonoma or a AI player and you don't like top or beat your own score, this would not be that because there is none of that. So you've been warned. All right, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope that whatever you play in your future, you enjoy thoroughly. Take it easy, everybody.